Today we have a great game to share with you. It's called Hero Wars, and it's been a lot of fun to play. This is an online role-playing action game enjoyed by more than 100 million players around the world. The campaign style itself feels like a classic fantasy game. While completing missions, I collect loot and upgrade my champions. If you've ever played other role-playing board games, well, this adventure is for you. It has more than 50 unique heroes, and each one has their own unique abilities. Combine and assemble different teams to battle in the arena or traverse the endless tower. But the main event happens online. You can create guilds, fight with other players, and constantly rise in rank. Join the game now, and as a viewer to our channel, get a super chest with a secret hero, as well as 62 emeralds and 30,000 in gold. Hero Wars is available on all mobile devices and also runs on a web browser with your desktop. Go ahead and scan this QR code or download the game using the link in the description, and I will see you online playing Hero Wars.
Witches have haunted the passages of folklore throughout history. Oriental sorceresses, European hags, and voodoo priestesses are all variations on the same theme. Women in league with supernatural evil. They were blamed for the stillborn, bad crops, sudden illness, and anything else frightened men could not explain away. America has a long tradition of persecuting witches. The famous trial in Salem was just one example of a mania that swept through the colonies. Women accused of witchcraft were drowned, hanged, and burned at the stake. These bloody spectacles were widespread until late in the 18th century, when another bloody spectacle took their place, the American Revolution. After the War for Independence, history books tell us little about witchcraft in the United States. Local and regional folktales, however, are full of references to supernatural occurrences, and they're all to earthly consequences. One of the most dramatic examples of this is the Blair Witch of Western Maryland, which originated with an extremely rare book. Supposedly written in 1785, it is entitled The Blair Witch Cult. Commonly considered fiction, this strange tome documents the fate of an unknown Maryland township cursed by an outcast hag. Several children accused Ellie Kedward of luring them into her home to draw blood from them. In court, the children's wounds would prove damning evidence, and Kedward was found guilty of witchcraft and banished from the village in the middle of a particularly harsh winter. She was assumed to have died from exposure. Although the name of the town is not mentioned in the book, it is assumed from the title that it is set in Blair County, and the region's bizarre history certainly supports this assumption. In 1883, a hermit named Rustin Parr abducted and murdered 7 children in the county's Black Hill area. Parr stated at his trial that he killed them for an old woman ghost. Whether he was telling the truth or simply manipulating the old legend will never be known. He was hanged for the crime and maintained the story of his supernatural accomplice all the way to the gallows. In 1890, an 8-year-old girl was reported missing and search parties were dispatched. The girl was found the next day, but one of the posses failed to return. The bodies of the 3 men were found in Dixon Drove Cave 2 weeks later. The men had been disemboweled, their teeth pulled, and unrecognizable symbols had been carved into their faces, hands, and feet. The missing girl claimed that she had been led into the forest by an old woman who walked without touching the ground. In 1889, 11 witnesses testified to seeing a pale woman's hand reach up and pull 10-year-old Kayleen Treacle into Tappy East Creek. Her body was never recovered from a stream only 2 feet deep. For 13 days after the drowning, the creek was clogged with oily bundles of sticks, and the water was undrinkable. These accounts are verifiable by newspaper articles and legal documents that are stored, along with the only known copy of the Blair Witch Cult, in the Maryland State Historical Museum. While these stories have gathered dust in glass cases, they have slowly been absorbed into the campfire ghost stories told by Blair residents. Local folklorists tell of hearing the cries of the witch's young victims echoing through the trees. Others claim that sections of the Black Hill area are lost in time, and that once entered, there is no way out. It was these simple folk tales, told to her by her grandmother, that first attracted Montgomery College film student Jane Steiner to the legend of the Blair Witch. A born journalist and a dedicated artist, Jane was drawn to the eerie mystery of the story's origins. After an interview with Rockville occultist Norm Terwether, Jane learned of the history behind the folklore and was hooked. After graduating, she raised $5,000 from family and friends, enlisted the help of classmates cameraman John Miller and sound recordist Billy Madsen, and began making plans to shoot a documentary on the Blair Witch. In October of 1993, the film crew arrived in Blair, the county seat of Blair County, to shoot 2 interviews and establishing shots of the surrounding area. Jane interviewed Mary Brown on the evening of October 12th and Chester Norris the morning of the 13th. Norris told the filmmakers that the graves of the hermit's victims in the cave where the posse's bodies were found were less than 20 minutes from the town and were easily accessible by an old logging road. A clerk at a local convenience store saw the 3 that afternoon when they stopped to buy snack food and drinks. He would be the last person to see Jane Steiner, John Miller, or Billy Madsen alive. When Madsen failed to report to work 2 days in a row, his employer contacted Steiner's roommate, who in turn called Angie Steiner, Jane's mother. The first APB was issued on the 17th, and the Maryland State Police launched their search of the Black Hill area on October 18th. This operation would last 10 days and include up to 100 men aided by dogs and helicopters. 8 months later, the investigation, which included experts from the FBI, was terminated. 33,000 man-hours had failed to find a trace of the filmmakers, their car, or their gear. The case was declared inactive and unsolved, June 23, 1994. Then, in October of 1995, students from the University of Maryland's Anthropology Department discovered a duffel bag full of film cans and videotapes buried under the foundation of a 200-year-old cabin. When the evidence was examined, Blair Sheriff Ron Cravens announced that the 17 rolls of black and white film and 43 8mm videotapes were indeed the property of Jane Steiner and her crew. After an initial month-long study of the bag's contents, the sheriff declared the footage to be an elaborate hoax. Outraged, Angie Steiner launched 2 unsuccessful lawsuits against the state of Maryland to release the footage. Finally, under pressure from state officials, the sheriff agreed to release the evidence to the filmmaker's next of kin when the legal limit of its classification runs out. On October 23rd, this footage will be given over to the estates of Jane Steiner, John Miller, and Billy Madsen. On that day, a new investigation will begin. Angie Steiner has contracted Haxon Films to perform the first private sector investigation of the Blair tapes. The Blair Witch Project will be an unprecedented journey into the heart of one of America's most mysterious puzzles. Haxon Films hopes to uncover the hidden truth about the Black Hill disappearances.
I first heard about this Blair Witch Project from one of the faculty of members at MC, where I used to go to school. We keep in touch, and he contacted me and told me about this this unbelievable story.
I got involved with this project a while ago when Ed approached me with this story that he ran across, and when we started getting more and more involved with it and dredging up some of the facts behind it, it just completely blew me away.
It was the impact, the emotional response to their first telling me the story that would not let the story leave my mind.
These people were, you know, students at the same place that I was. I mean, these people could have been, you know, me and my friends. So there's a real, you know, connection there.
Knowing that those film students may have been there and may have been fighting for their lives there, in some form is enough to, I think, to want anyone to see what may be on those rolls of film.
So in 2 months, in October, when we are finally granted access to the materials, we are as unsure now as anybody as to what is on those videotapes, what is on those film rolls, what is on those sound reels.
And that's kind of the risk that we're running here. There may be nothing of any worth on the film.
And it's my fear that this doesn't turn into an Al Capone's vault.
I'm just real cautious about how we do this film because it's, you know, the footage could be nothing, but yet the footage could be quite spectacular, and we still have to keep in mind that 3 people are gone.
At Boyd's Country Store is the last place where the filmmakers are seen. And all we have left are those reels of film. And that's where we want to find our truth in this story.
I hope that the raw materials to put together a final story is there that provides answers for us and for the families and for the public. That's what I hope is there.
Witches have haunted the passages of folklore throughout history. In the United States, tales of the supernatural date back to the origins of the nation itself. Regional beliefs are full of local stories proclaiming the influence of witchcraft. Western Maryland is home to one of the most compelling and terrifying of these legends, the Blair Witch. The Blair Witch lore is actually a series of unresolved incidents spanning over 200 years, beginning with the banishment of an accused witch in the 1700s. Numerous accounts of mysterious deaths and stories of ghostly sightings were common in this area until the middle of this century. It was these tales, told to her by her grandmother, that first attracted Maryland student Heather Donahue to the legend of the Blair Witch. In October of 1994, Heather enlisted the help of classmates Joshua Leonard and Michael Williams and began filming in the area of the legend's origin. After a day of shooting interviews, they entered the woods off Black Hill Road and were never seen again. When the students were reported missing, the state police launched a massive search of the area. After 10 days, the search failed to find a trace of the filmmakers or any of their equipment. 6 months later, the case was declared inactive and unsolved. Then, in June of 1996, students from the University of Maryland's Anthropology Department discovered a duffel bag containing several film cans and videotapes buried beneath the ruins of an old house. When the evidence was examined, Sheriff Ron Cravens announced that the 14 rolls of black and white film and 12 videotapes were indeed the property of Heather Donahue and her crew. The case was immediately reopened. After a year of inconclusive results, the case of the Black Hill disappearances was once again declared unsolved. In October of 1997, the families of the filmmakers finally won the rights to the footage and contracted Haxon Films to perform a private analysis of the material. As the Haxon project continues, several minutes of the found footage never before witnessed by the public will be open to scrutiny during this show, with the great hope of finding a resolution for all involved.
We were hoping that the footage was going to provide us with answers. I think the last time we did the interviews for the show, we had talked about all the questions that we had and how we were really looking forward to getting the footage because it was going to answer all these questions, or we were hoping that it was going to answer all these questions, but it's actually been the opposite.
All right, Josh is finally here, so he'll be in just a second, and we will be ready to go. How are you, Mike? It's nice to meet you.
I'm tired, but I'm doing good. I'm real excited about this. Thank you for the opportunity.
I'm very glad. Well, thank you for getting the equipment together. We're totally grateful. I want to present this in as straightforward a way as possible, and I think the legend is unsettling enough.
Just tell me a little bit more about the legend.
Could you just state your name for the camera, sir?
Sure. My name's Jim Maynard.
Jim Maynard?
Yeah.
And how long have you lived in the area, Jim?
Oh, all my life.
All your
much,
life?
Yeah.
you do recall something about the Blair Witch incident that happened in the early 40s?
Yeah, sure do.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Because something interesting happened to you actually at one point in your life. You had an encounter with the Blair Witch.
Yes, that is a really kind of scary story.
Some of the young kids started to disappear, and nobody knew anything about why they were disappearing.
I mean, anybody worth their salt around here knows that this area's been haunted by that old woman for years.
That's bullshit.
It was like a woman, only on her arm, on her hands and everything. It was like hair, like a real dark, almost black hair.
It's pretty common. A lot of people say that that's what happened. I just don't believe it.
Yeah.
I could help you, but I'd rather stand and record.
Okay. Okay, packs are on.
Rock.
We're ready to go.
We gotta go up to the shack, the shanty.
Yep.
Wow.
Take one. People came out into the woods here to prepared to find death. Hang on. Well, I don't have a tent for 3 people, you know, I'm not used to...
No, I'm just wondering.
I'm not usually traveling with 2 men, if you know what I'm saying.
Baby steps, man, baby steps.
Just breathe and don't look down, maybe? No, you gotta look down. Josh feels it's necessary to look at the map now, even though I know where we're going, and we're going straight ahead up there.
If you've known where we're going, we wouldn't be hiking like we're in the middle of the
How
woods.
could you some of it is off-trail hiking. I'm telling you guys, 2 more hours max. Okay, we just did a map check, and it seems like we're still pretty much on trail.
That's not what I said.
No, I think we're all right.
There are certain instances in the footage where the 3 filmmakers run across kind of unexplained things, at least unexplained to us. They're definitely man-made. Can't really explain them through natural causes.
How would we have, like, just made a campsite in between 3 piles of rocks just by coincidence?
They're all over the place.
Holy Josh! Come up here quick! I need to use the CP! I have no idea.
As we were reviewing the tapes, we were witnessing this transformation from this student film about the Blair Witch Project in Maryland to this visual diary. Heather and turned the camera on themselves in an effort, it seems like to me, to leave some kind of record.
Go! Go! Oh, God! God! Hurry up!
I'm coming! My boots aren't laced. I should have told the guys about all the stories before we came out. I only told them half of everything. And so they weren't fully prepared to know what to expect. That's my fault too. Now that we have the footage, now that we've spent the last 3 months, 4 months looking at the footage, we all have more questions than what we have.
Thanks for watching. If you'd like to help us produce more compelling historical content like this, please like, comment below, and share this video with fellow history buffs. And of course, be sure to subscribe to help keep history happening.